Now, it was just a matter of time before I pulled out a stamp with a queen's head on it. Any queen's head. And in this case, we have a stamp with two royal figures. The queen on the left is Queen Victoria, while the king on the right is King George VI, the King of England at the time of this stamp. This stamp is a commemorative stamp celebrating 100 years of the first Mauritius stamp, affectionately known as the Blue Mauritius. We can see the 100 years marked for 1847 to 1947. Now, looking over at the cancellation, we can learn that this stamp was used on the 25th of April in 1948. And the 1R value indicates that the stamp was worth 1 Mauritian rupee. Now, the stamp belongs to a set of 4. I found the blue 20-cent version, and what's missing is the 5-cent and 12-cent version that are both commemorating the orange Mauritius, the less famous sister of the blue Mauritius, but were issued at the same time. Now, these aren't the only stamps that are commemorating the Blue Mauritius. I came across this stamp from the Netherlands back in '95 that also features the famous blue stamp. Now, there is a lot to say on the Blue Mauritius. It's a very fascinating stamp. But the first question is, where's Mauritius? It's in the Indian Ocean east of Madagascar. It traded hands between the Dutch, French, and English because of its strategic location. Mauritius was known as the star and key of the Indian Ocean because it was perfectly situated on the trade route from Europe to the east. That was until the Suez Canal opened up in 1869, making it far more direct. So why is this important? Well, just as any trade stop, Mauritius also served as a mail hub where ships could drop off and pick up mail along their route. Now, in 1847, Mauritius decides to issue their very first stamp, making it the first British Empire stamp to be produced outside of Great Britain, 7 years after the penny black, the first stamp ever made. Now, being that it was a British colony, the stamps that were going in and out of Mauritius over those last 7 years were the penny black, the penny red, and the 2p blue. All British stamps portraying Queen Victoria's profile. Now, I'm just going to take these two out of the discussion for now because we can discuss them in a later episode. Now, the Blue Mauritius is clearly modelled after the 2p blue. They're both 2p, they both are blue, and they both have Queen Victoria's head. However, if you look at the Blue Mauritius, it's clearly more primitive than the artwork of the 2p blue. Now, if you own one of these stamps today, you're a millionaire. The last one sold for £1.05 million back in 2011. That's approximately $1.67 million. And the pair of them, the blue and the orange, sold for $4 million back in 1993. Now, there's only 12 known Blue Mauritius stamps and 14 of the orange kind. There's also a lot of forgeries out there, so be careful with your $1 million, folks. I mean, just think about it. A stamp weighs about 1 gram. 1 gram of gold is $40. If you spend $1.67 million on a single gram of paper, that's saying that the stamp is over 41,750 times the value of gold. I don't know what that means to you, but that's a lot of money. It's not even the most expensive stamp in the world, but that's a discussion for another time. Now, I actually have a Blue Mauritius stamp, but I'm not a millionaire. Firstly, the stamp is torn. That's the way I found it. And second of all, the stamp is post-paid. If you look in the left margin, post-paid is a different version of the stamp that came out 1 year later. The post office is the original 1847 stamp. There were actually several versions of the stamp that came out. In 1847, we have the Blue Mauritius Post Office. This is the one where there's only known to be 12 in existence and they're worth a fortune. 1 year later, it was changed to post-paid in 1848. 11 years later, in 1859, a new version was released called the Lapero issue, and it was so ugly that it later became known as the Monkey Head issue. So they came out with 2 additional designs that year, the Sherman and the Dardenne Litho, to try and correct the Lapero issue. Which one does my torn stamp belong to? Well, it looks like it's the post-paid version of 1848. So, no millions for me, but still a fascinating stamp with a great story. Please remember to subscribe to see where this journey takes us in the several videos to come. Until then, happy collecting.